Welcome back to our channel where we provide updates and undisclosed narratives on Catherine, Princess of Wales and her royal family. We provide you with the exciting news, Camilla in turmoils. After attacking Prince William, her ex-husband leaks shocking proof. An insider source asserts that Queen Camilla is subject to internal sanctions after an alleged conspiracy against Prince William. In an extraordinary development that has reverberated across the British establishment, Queen Camilla has been formally divested of her official powers and responsibilities during an emergency session of the Royal Council. Buckingham Palace is contending with a self-inflicted crisis that jeopardizes the gravity of King Charles III's declining health. Confidential sources inside the royal household have verified to this magazine that the king is now in the advanced stages of metastatic cancer, a diagnosis that has placed the monarchy's power structure on high alert. It is, however, a simultaneous and profoundly personal catastrophe that has garnered the palace's immediate and unwavering focus. Queen Camilla is said to have orchestrated a clandestine operation aimed at methodically undermining the reputation and questioning the stability of the heir to the throne, Prince William. The scheme, characterized by a senior courtier as a stunning act of internal sabotage, was allegedly revealed via compelling evidence from an unexpected source, Andrew Parker Bowles, the Queen's former spouse. In reaction to the startling charges, the Royal Council called an urgent midnight session. The conference, attended by a feeble King Charles, a determined Prince William, and the highest-ranking royal councillors, was convened to assess the incriminating evidence and decide the Queen's destiny. While the council convened in the palace's 1844 room, a tangible tension enveloped London, the city's typical nighttime vibrancy, supplanted by an atmosphere of nervous expectation. The decision issued in the early hours has essentially marginalized the Queen from public life, labeling her as the orchestrator of a campaign of manipulation and dishonesty from inside the institution she pledged to serve. The narrative of the inception, execution, and eventual thwarting of this royal plot is a sobering account of ambition, trepidation, and treachery. It is also the narrative of how Prince William, affected by his stepmother's conduct, but resilient, maneuvered through a relentless personal and political assault to affirm his status as the nation's future monarch. A realm in anticipation. The sky over London had been overcast and dreary for weeks, reflecting the melancholic atmosphere around the monarchy. As the October frost enveloped the city, reports emerged from the inner circles of Buckingham Palace validating the nation's gravest concerns. King Charles's disease, once seen as treatable, had metastasized. The outlook was dire. The British public, convinced of the king's regular treatment and favorable prognosis, was unprepared for the rapid advancement of the sickness. It resembled, as one analyst observed, a sharp blade cutting through the delicate aspirations of the populace. In recent days, Prince William has adeptly assumed the role vacated by his sick father. He assumed the role of de facto regent, his presence a persistent and comforting element in the nation's existence. He was seen representing the crown at a remembrance ceremony for war casualties at Westminster Abbey, conducting serious discussions with government officials at 10 Downing Street, and interacting with community leaders in the country's most destitute areas. His composed voice and determined gaze conveyed an impression of stability, reassuring the audience that the impending transition would be safe. The populace saw in William a resolute leader prepared to bear the substantial weight of the crown, his affable grin now infused with unwavering resolve. However, beyond the poised public front, William was contending with deep emotional torment. The father he idolized, the king he had emulated for decades, was gradually fading. Every evening, when returning to his family at Adelaide Cottage in Windsor, he would have minutes of isolation, often seated by a window, contemplating the shadowy gardens of the great park. A source close to the Prince of Wales said that his heart was burdened by an unexpressed pain. "Father, how can I maintain cohesion in all aspects?" he reportedly mumbled to himself one evening, his voice constricted with grief. However, these times were ephemeral. He would swiftly regain his composure, erase any semblance of grief, and return to the myriad of paperwork and state files requiring his focus. While William concentrated on navigating the governance of the state, a concealed and perilous undercurrent had emerged inside the palace's inner sanctum. The enormous resonant corridors of Buckingham Palace, once filled with the mirth of royal feasts and the activity of official events, now remained unsettlingly quiet. A climate of tension and distrust had emerged. Queen Camilla, who had always accompanied Charles throughout his reign, was now restricted to her own quarters in the western wing of the palace, anticipating the royal council's decision. Rumors about her scheme to tarnish and subvert Prince William's image had proliferated among the palace personnel. Although the media was prohibited from covering the internal probe, the rumors were unavoidable. "She has exceeded acceptable limits." This time was the prevalent sentiment expressed in the kitchens and parlor rooms. The atmosphere was so charged that staff members inhaled sharply at the mere utterance of her name. Two soldiers from the King's Guard stood at attention before her secluded room, their distinctive red uniforms contrasting sharply with the dimly lighted opulent passageway. Within, Camilla remained immobile. Observers of this era depicted a lady markedly altered. Her typically pristine hair was unkempt, and her complexion seemed sallow and gaunt due to insomnia. The eyes were focused on an antique portrait on the side table, a silver-framed depiction of her and Charles in their youth laughing in the grounds at Highgrove. "I merely wish to retain what belongs to me," she was overheard expressing to a lady-in-waiting, her voice faltering. What led to this situation? Her tears, however, were not only indicative of guilt. They experienced a multifaceted blend of dread due to the abrupt loss of control, the sting of being outmaneuvered, and the profound, searing anguish of betrayal, both inflicted and endured. Camilla has consistently shown resilience, ascending to the pinnacle of the British establishment by a blend of astuteness, perseverance, and unwavering determination. She was now a trapped creature, her meticulously built environment disintegrating around her. Her subdued weeping merged with the lamenting wail of the wind outside her window, creating a poignant depiction of a queen's demise. Far, far from the secluded theatrics of central London, Andrew Parker Bowles resided in his tranquil Wiltshire abode, observing via his window as the twilight fog obscured the roofs of the historic hamlet. A guy in his 70s, characterized by a shock of silver hair and profound discerning eyes, was once Camilla's spouse. He was now the custodian of the secrets that had led to her downfall. A digital audio file rested on the polished oak table beside him, a copy of the tape submitted to the Royal Council, the evidence that instigated the inquiry and determined his ex-wife's fate. He had neither success nor satisfaction, simply a subdued, exhausting sorrow. "I once held affection for her," he disclosed to a trusted companion. "I was certain that power and status would ultimately bring her happiness. Conversely, it transformed her into an unfamiliar somebody I could no longer identify." While consuming a tumbler of single malt whiskey, recollections of their difficult marriage inundated his thoughts. The opulent balls of the 1970s, the quiet, acrimonious disputes over her association with the then Prince of Wales, and the inevitable, irreparable chasm that developed between them. He was absolutely confident that he had made the correct decision. However, his heart continued to long for the incisive, clever, and spirited woman he had previously cherished, the woman who had for a while meant everything to him. At the palace, experts toiled under flickering desk lights, meticulously composing the official paperwork to codify Camilla's rebuke. This occurrence will be recorded in history as one of the darkest and most peculiar moments of King Charles's short reign. As the ink dried on the stringent stipulations, all attention shifted to the future and the unsettling issue that loomed over the royal family. What could drive a queen to such desperate, self-destructive extremes? The admission in the sanctuary. The revelations started 1 week before inside the esteemed confines of St. George's Chapel at Windsor. The historic architectural masterpiece, characterized by its frigid stone walls and elevated fan-vaulted ceilings, has observed centuries of regal history, including weddings, baptisms, burials, and concealed mysteries. That dusk, the diminishing light permeated the exquisite stained glass windows, projecting iridescent jewel-toned designs onto the weathered stone floor. Andrew Parker Bowles attended a memorial ceremony for a former Army colleague, a fellow officer from his tenure in the Blues and Royals. Attired in a traditional black suit with his medals subtly affixed to his lapel, he traversed slowly amid the polished wooden benches, his thoughts consumed by reminiscences of his boyhood and the inexorable passage of time. As the ceremony ended and the somber toll of the chapel bells diminished, the congregation started to exit into the brisk fall air. Parker Bowles, however, remained absorbed in contemplation. As he approached the exit, his progress stopped. A voice emanated from a secluded, little-used confessional booth, positioned in a tranquil area of the church. It was a voice he recognized more intimately than his own Camilla's. It was quivering but incisive with a recognizable toxic edge. His heart started to thump. Instinctively, he retreated, concealing himself behind a substantial stone pillar, his extensive military training activating as he made himself inconspicuous. "Father, I have transgressed." Camilla's voice resonated in the expansive, silent chamber. It was imbued with a tangible dread and an intense resentment. "However, I am apprehensive. The king deteriorates daily. William is only awaiting, he and his spouse. In Charles's absence, they will confiscate everything that I own. The throne, the title, my status, even my dignity. I cannot and I will not allow it to occur." Her statement seemed a calculated rationalization rather than a sincere confession, suggesting she sought not absolution, but validation for the ominous course she was resolved to pursue. The priest, concealed behind the elaborately carved wooden screen, only emitted a gentle, fatigued sigh, indicative of a man well-versed in the sorrows of lost souls. Parker Bowles remained still, his respiration feeble. He was familiar with Camilla's behaviors. He was acquainted with the lady who never capitulated, capable of presenting a charming grin for the cameras while deftly constructing elaborate traps covertly. His thoughts drifted to their marriage nights at Bolehide Manor, when Camilla, with gleaming eyes, would narrate her social tactics, the nuanced manipulation of acquaintances and adversaries, and the strategic leaks to journalists to influence the narrative. He had previously esteemed her astuteness and her proficiency in the game. Now it unnerved him profoundly. He exited the church, the frigid wind striking his face. "William once more, Camilla," he murmured hoarsely to himself. He drove home in a state of agitation, his thoughts racing. He remembered how Camilla had adeptly maneuvered through several crises in the past, always able to sway public opinion and emerge from adversity more resilient than before. This occasion was distinct. Her objective was Prince William, the unequivocal heir, a figure whom Parker Bowles esteemed as an emblem of the monarchy's continuity and future. The anguish prevented him from sleeping throughout the night. By daylight, a resolution had crystallized in his thoughts, a tacit commitment. He reached out to a reliable former associate from his tenure in military intelligence, who is now managing a prestigious private security company. The request was bold: to implant a clandestine listening device and a micro-camera in the Queen's official vehicle. Parker Bowles saw it as a startling violation of policy, maybe unlawful, but he believed he had no alternative. He recognized that this action would permanently obliterate any last semblance of politeness between him and his ex-wife. However, he also recognized its necessity for William, for the ailing king, and for the integrity of the crown itself. The narrative develops upon returning to Clarence House, her sophisticated London abode. Camilla closed the thick drapes, excluding the outside world. The subdued afternoon light revealed a face that was pallid and taut, but her eyes blazed with the ferocity of a predator assessing its last maneuver. She settled onto a supple leather couch, her fingers quivering slightly as she filled a glass with red wine. "I shall not forfeit everything," she said, her tone laden with bitterness. She entered a number on a landline telephone. "Tom," she murmured, her tone subdued and pressing. "Mother requires you to organize a meeting. 2 of your acquaintances, at the first opportunity." Tom Parker Bowles, her son, and a prominent culinary writer with vast media affiliations, hesitated on the other end of the call. He recognized the inflection in his mother's voice. The sound of a scheme's inception was evident. Nonetheless, she was his mother, and his allegiance, although being tested, remained steadfast. He consented. 2 days later, at a charming, inconspicuous cafe in Chelsea, Camilla occupied a private corner clad in a black coat and a wide-brimmed hat. 2 freelance journalists sat opposite her. One individual was James, a middle-aged guy with astute, analytical eyes. The other was Sophia, a younger, ambitious lady whose keen intellect was her most captivating attribute. "I require both of you to participate in the press pool for the forthcoming visit of the Prince and Princess of Wales to Northern Ireland." Camilla said, her tone a kind but commanding murmur. "I have reliable information that the trip will offer some valuable experiences." James, the seasoned skeptic, scowled. "Your Majesty, with utmost respect, it is a tour centered on agricultural initiatives. What is the narrative?" Camilla's grin was slender and frigid. "This is not an agricultural narrative, James. A human being. The narrative of a fatigued prince encumbered by sorrow and strain, discovering a fleeting connection with a lady who comprehends him." The 2 journalists halted, sharing a disquieted look. Camilla's attention was directed on Sophia. "You," she said, her voice descending to a clandestine whisper, "will encounter opportunities to be near Prince William." A few nuanced but personal gestures. A prolonged contact on the arm while posing an inquiry. An excessively familiar grin exchanged among a group. No overt indications, sufficient to inspire inquiry. She thereafter directed her attention to James. "You will synchronize your shots impeccably. Obtain visuals that imply intimacy while remaining sufficiently unclear to allow for denial. A single shot along with a few well-crafted words allows the public's imagination to fill in the gaps." The ambiance at the cafe became oppressive. James exhibited hesitation. "Madam, this is exceedingly perilous. If we are apprehended—" Camilla interrupted him softly, laying a substantial packet on the table and pushing it toward him. "I am not requesting you to fabricate," she said calmly, her tone as composed as if she were presenting at a charity banquet. "I am only requesting that you provide a story that the audience is already predisposed to accept." The idealized image of the prince is starting to deteriorate under pressure. Individuals overlook that he is only human, and individuals have vulnerabilities. The journalists examined the envelope and then regarded one another. Greed and dread contended in their gaze. They saw this as a Faustian bargain, a covenant that could either elevate their careers or destroy them completely. "I shall not reach out to you again," Camilla said, standing from her chair. "Behave as though we are unacquainted." Upon exiting the cafe into the frigid London fog, she had a surge of empowerment, a palpable sensation of triumph within her reach. She was entirely oblivious that from the instant her vehicle departed Clarence House, every utterance made inside it, and every moment of her cafe rendezvous had been recorded. At a distance, Andrew Parker Bowles remained in a stationary vehicle, seeing the live broadcast on a little screen, his heart laden with deep grief. "Oh, Camilla," he murmured, clutching the steering wheel, "you have ultimately exceeded acceptable limits." The counter-move. The tape was sent to Prince William via a reliable intermediary, Sir Edward Lansdowne, an experienced courtier who had served the royal family for more than 40 years. Sir Edward presented the facts in person during a confidential meeting at Kensington Palace. William listened to the recording, his complexion becoming more pallid with each moment. His hand positioned on the arm of his chair formed a tight fist. She seeks to obliterate my marriage and tarnish my reputation while my father lies on his deathbed, he said, his voice a subdued, seething quiver. The anguish of the betrayal was profound and familial. He envisioned his father delicate and defenseless, enduring the toxicity of these fabricated rumors. Catherine, the Princess of Wales, entered the chamber, and upon seeing her husband's expression, immediately grasped the seriousness of the situation. She approached him, resting a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "We shall overcome this, William," she murmured, in unison. Rather than openly expressing anger, William opted for a course of calculated quiet. He traversed the frigid moonlit grounds of the castle that night, his thoughts keen and concentrated. "I must adopt a clinical approach," he determined. "I must not allow emotion to govern this." Several days later, as anticipated, the two journalists from the cafe officially sought press credentials for the Northern Ireland visit. William, acknowledging their identities, directed his staff to courteously refuse. "The delegation has reached its limit regarding official media." Camilla was furious about the rejection. She flung a crystal glass on the hearth at Clarence's house, shattering it. "He's young." She was red-faced and snarled. "He's cornering me." She felt fury and despair at being revealed, and her complex strategy failing before its start. As Charles's health deteriorated, she realized that William's popularity would make the throne and her power unreachable. In despair, she worked harder. She consulted the king's personal physician, who had served the royal family for years, and owed Camilla for her help in a private matter that may have ruined his career. Camilla spoke gently but sharply at a secret meeting in the palace's antiseptic white medical wing, which smelled like disinfectant. "Please disclose a confidential evaluation," she ordered. "Verify Prince William is in significant psychological distress. Sleeplessness, exhaustion, and mental instability. Nothing scandalous. Enough for journalists to guess the rest." She left a large envelope on the table with the unstated promise of a prominent post and a large pension. The doctor, a late-60s man with gold-rimmed glasses, hesitated, sweating. His resolve crumbled under pressure and inducement. "I shall undertake it, Your Majesty," he responded. A carefully constructed medical paper was surreptitiously provided to trusted royal journalists days later. "The Prince of Wales is exhibiting signs of enduring psychological stress in accordance with his present familial pressures. Rest and supervised treatment are advised." Camilla smiled at the first news alerts. She was sure she had killed with subliminal suggestion, not sight. She was unaware that Andrew Parker Bowles was still watching, and that Prince William was planning his last counteroffensive. The breakdown, a fake medical memorandum, went viral in Britain. Morning newspapers boldly headlined, "William on the brink, is the prince fit to rule?" The media showed William looking exhausted, while commentators and pop doctors studied his every eye movement for signs of a mental breakdown. Camilla acted amid the media hysteria. She anticipated media coverage at a small London charity event. When asked about the prince's health, she bent her head, shimmering. "I am aware only that Charles is exceedingly anxious," she murmured, trembling. "William works hard. We all hope he takes time to rest." Her performance was great. International press coverage focused on a tired, fragile prince and a kind stepmother. However, William's men secretly dismantled the plan. Sir Edward, the observant courtier, quickly found anomalies in the leaked memorandum. The doctor's signature was shaky, unlike the record. He informed the royal council. A private conference was requested for the doctor immediately. He lost his cool as the council members stared at him in a gloomy, courtroom-like chamber. He confessed after intense questioning. "I was compelled," he confessed, humiliated. The person was Queen Camilla. The admission completed the mystery. The council realized they were facing a deliberate inside coup effort, not merely media conjecture. William decided to join the media frenzy. Harry held a brief impromptu press conference at Kensington Palace's entrance the following morning. His discourse was calm, and his eyes were steady. "I am in optimal health, and persist in serving the king and the nation daily," he stated. I have requested a complete and unbiased medical assessment, the findings of which will be made public to refute these baseless rumors. A panel of independent doctors from London's top institutions reported within 24 hours the Prince of Wales is in excellent physical and mental health, exhibiting only standard signs of fatigue associated with a rigorous work schedule. Public opinion changed quickly. The hashtag #WeTrustWilliam trended internationally. Concern about the prince's health gave way to outrage at malicious rumors about him. The Royal Council had its last meeting that night. Andrew Parker Bowles was invited to testify. In the dim room, he played the Chelsea Cafe recording. Camilla planned the prince's indictment in the stillness, with her cold, meticulous voice. Evidence was conclusive. I have known Camilla throughout my entire adult life, Parker Bowles said regretfully. I understand that fear makes her aggressive. Never before has she felt such terror. William nodded, his eyes filled with pain and resolve. This is not retribution, he told the council. This concerns crown stability. She damaged public confidence and made my father's death worse. Despite the pain, the truth must be uncovered. The judgment. Camilla was summoned to the palace that night. Pouring rain cleaned London's streets. As her car crossed the gates, she realized her rule was over. In the grand room, she addressed the council, her spouse, her stepson, and her ex-husband, the main causes of her awful deterioration. King Charles looked at her from a well-positioned armchair, ill and devastated. Camilla, he whispered with regal authority, I felt you were least likely to harm this family. I was mistaken. After a terrible coughing fit, his body and heart broke. Camilla died, her tears filling the large, peaceful room. Council head, a stern, silver-haired lord, pronounced the decision. Camilla would be freed from public duties and ceremonies. Her operational funds were cut. She would move from the inner palace to a private room under non-criminal logistical supervision. The General Medical Council heard the physician's case, and the two journalists were banned from royal press events indefinitely. Each statement shattered her lifelong world. She saw Andrew Parker Bowles as she left, only tilting his head. He said, I executed the necessary actions loud enough for her to hear. Her pale face showed a short acceptance as she closed her eyes. Her figure vanished into the dark London night as she left in the downpour. King Charles addressed his son in the grand hall. Proceed with your endeavors, William, he murmured, weak but proud. With you, the crown is secure. William took his dad's hand. He responded, for you, father, quietly, defending the monarchy's honor. The storm has passed. London awakened the following morning to brighter skies, a reinforced monarchy, and the unnerving tale of a queen's gamble, a diabolical intrigue that would forever demonstrate power's dangers, allegiance's cost, and treachery's consequences. Thank you for watching the video. Please let us know your thoughts, and goodbye for now.